Look at your hand. Go ahead. Actually look at it. The skin, the lines running across your palm, the way it moves when you flex your fingers. It feels completely real, solid, present, yours. Now here's the question that breaks everything. What if none of that is real? I don't mean this as philosophy. I mean it in the most literal, scientifically grounded sense possible. What you're looking at when you look at your hand is not your hand. It's your brain's best guess at what your hand might look like. A construction, a rendering, built from electrical signals and evolutionary shortcuts, compressed into something your mind can navigate. The actual hand, the thing that exists independent of your perception of it, you have never seen it. You never will. Your senses are not windows. They're filters. And the version of reality they're showing you has been stripped down, simplified, and edited specifically so you don't get overwhelmed by what's actually there. We are going to go deeper than you've gone before. Not into mysticism, into the science of how reality actually works, layer by layer, and what sits underneath the version you've been living in your whole life. Start here, with something that sounds boring but isn't. Your eyes respond to a tiny slice of the electromagnetic spectrum, visible light, between roughly 380 and 700 nanometers. That's it. That's your window into the world. Outside that range, ultraviolet, infrared, radio waves, X-rays, gamma radiation, all of it is passing through this room right now, through your body. You feel nothing. You see nothing. It doesn't register. Bees see ultraviolet patterns on flowers that are invisible to us, directions to nectar that no human eye has ever observed. Pit vipers hunt using infrared. Some birds navigate using Earth's magnetic field, sensing a dimension of space that has no equivalent in human experience whatsoever. So when you look at a garden and a bee looks at the same garden, you're not both seeing different versions of the same thing. You're each inside completely different realities, built from different available information, neither of which is the actual garden. The actual garden, if such a thing exists, is something neither of you have direct access to. This is not a thought experiment. This is the starting point that cognitive scientists keep circling back to when they're being honest about what perception is. Your brain does not receive reality, it models it. Donald Hoffman spent 30 years at UC Irvine running mathematical models on how evolution builds perception systems. What he found was uncomfortable enough that it took him years to fully accept. Evolution doesn't optimize for truth, it optimizes for survival. Hoffman ran simulations where he pitted perception systems against each other in evolutionary competition. The ones tuned to perceive reality accurately were consistently beaten by the ones tuned to perceive fitness-relevant information quickly. Seeing the truth about what something is was slower, more metabolically expensive, and less useful than seeing a simple signal for whether to approach or avoid it. So over millions of years of natural selection, what won wasn't the accurate perception system. What won was the efficient one, the one that replaced complex reality with simple, functional symbols. He describes it like this. Think about the icons on a computer screen. The email icon isn't a tiny envelope. It's a symbol that represents something incomprehensibly complex happening at the hardware level. Millions of transistors switching states, electrons moving through circuits, operations you couldn't begin to visualize. But the icon is useful. You don't need to understand what's underneath to use it. So the interface hides the complexity and shows you something you can work with. Your perception of reality is exactly that, an interface, not a window. Your brain built a simplified desktop that contains icons called trees, people, tables, sunsets, so you could navigate the environment without being overwhelmed by what's actually there. The actual environment, the thing the icons represent, you've never seen it directly, not once. Here's where it stops feeling abstract. At some point in the last century, physicists started dismantling the idea that matter, as we understand it, is real in the way we thought. Solid objects are not solid. You already know this in a vague way, but the scale of it is still worth sitting with. If you took a single atom and scaled it up to the size of a large cathedral, the nucleus at the center would be about the size of a fly. The electrons would be somewhere near the outer walls. Everything in between is empty space. You have never touched anything in your life. The atoms in your hand and the atoms in whatever you've touched never made contact. They repelled each other through electromagnetic force at a distance so small it's not perceptible, but genuine contact never happened. The sensation of touch is your nervous system interpreting that repulsion as solid surface. The floor beneath you is not touching your feet. Force is, but even that is just the beginning of what quantum mechanics did to our understanding. At the subatomic level, particles don't have definite positions until they're measured. This isn't a limitation of our instruments. Physicists tested for this carefully after Einstein argued it must be wrong. Bell's theorem, tested experimentally in the 1960s and confirmed many times since, established that quantum particles genuinely do not have fixed properties before observation. The act of measuring is part of what determines what's found. John Wheeler, one of the physicists who understood this most deeply, put it like this: no phenomenon is a real phenomenon until it is an observed phenomenon. He didn't mean that literally nothing exists without observers. He meant something stranger, that at the quantum level, reality exists in a smear of possibilities until something interacts with it in a way that forces one of those possibilities to actualize. The universe, at its most fundamental level, is not a collection of things. It's a collection of potential events waiting for conditions that determine which ones become real. Physicists still disagree sharply about what this means, and that disagreement is genuine. But the fact that they disagree about the interpretation while agreeing on the mathematics is itself telling. The math works. It's the description of what's actually happening underneath the math that keeps escaping them. So what is underneath? This is where we move from established physics into the territory that serious researchers are genuinely working in right now, without clean answers. One possibility that has been gaining ground among philosophers of mind and a growing number of physicists is that the deepest level of reality is not physical at all. That matter, particles, space, and time itself, these might be emergent features of something more fundamental. That something in several competing theoretical frameworks is information, or consciousness, or both together. Wheeler spent the last decades of his life developing what he called the it from bit framework, the idea that every physical object, every it in the universe, derives its existence from binary information exchanges. That information isn't something reality contains. Information is what reality is made of. Hoffman's theory goes further. He proposes that underneath the physical interface we all navigate, the actual ground of reality is a network of conscious agents. Consciousness isn't something that emerged late in the universe's story, inside skulls, after billions of years of evolution. Consciousness might be what was there first, and what the universe is doing is consciousness exploring itself through an increasingly complex series of interfaces. This isn't mainstream, but it isn't fringe either. Philip Goff at Durham has spent years building a serious academic case that consciousness is a fundamental property of reality rather than an emergent product of it. Andre Lind at Stanford has said directly that the universe and the observer exist as a pair, that a consistent theory of the universe probably cannot ignore consciousness. The deeper you look, the stranger the view. Let me slow down for a second because there's something worth noticing in your own experience that connects to all of this. Think about what it actually means to perceive something. Right now, there's no color in this room. Color isn't a property of objects. It's what your brain does with certain wavelengths of light. The wavelength exists. The redness of a red apple does not. That redness is constructed inside your visual cortex and projected outward, so it appears to live in the apple rather than in your head. The same is true of sound. Vibrations exist in the air. The experience of music is something your brain builds from those vibrations. The vibrations and the music are not the same thing. The same is true of temperature. Particles are moving at various speeds. The sensation of warmth is your nervous system's interpretation of that speed. Everything you have ever experienced, every sight, sound, texture, smell, emotion, everything that has ever felt like the world pressing against you was happening inside your nervous system, not outside it. You have never been in direct contact with the external world. You have been in contact with your brain's model of the external world. That model has been refined over millions of years of evolution to be extraordinarily useful. But useful and accurate are not the same thing. In fact, as Hoffman's work suggests, they may be in direct competition. Your senses were not built to show you truth. They were built to keep you alive. And keeping you alive required showing you a simplified, manageable version of something far more complex. There are levels, and the level you live in, the world of solid objects, visible light, linear time, matter that seems to behave predictably, that's the surface layer, the interface, the desktop with its icons. Below it is the quantum layer, where things stop being things and start being probabilities, where particles don't have positions until measured, where two particles can be correlated across any distance instantly in ways that shouldn't be physically possible, but demonstrably are, where observation itself is part of what determines what reality looks like. Below that, some researchers believe, is the information layer. The point at which physical reality dissolves into patterns of data, relationships between states, yes or no choices at scale so small that the physical descriptions we're used to stop applying. And below that, if Hoffman and others working in similar directions are right, is consciousness. Not consciousness as a late arrival to the physical universe. Consciousness as the substrate that the physical universe is running on. Every layer you go deeper, the world you thought you knew looks more like a projection, a map drawn to be useful, not accurate. The map is extraordinarily well drawn. It gets you through your day. It lets you build buildings and write music and recognize the faces of people you love. But the territory it represents is something else entirely. Here's where this lands for me personally, not as science, as something I keep thinking about. If the version of reality you perceive was built for survival rather than truth, then there are aspects of the world that are completely inaccessible to you simply because knowing about them would have offered no evolutionary advantage. The universe could contain depths, textures, dimensions of experience that simply cannot register on human perception, the way certain frequencies of light cannot register in human eyes. We talk sometimes about the limits of knowledge as if knowledge is the constraint. Maybe perception is the deeper constraint. Maybe what we can know is bounded not by how smart we are, but by what interface we're running. A dog can hear your heartbeat change when your mood shifts. You can't. Not because you lack intelligence, because you don't have the interface for it. An octopus processes color information through its skin despite being colorblind in its eyes. An entirely different relationship with color, mediated through an entirely different sensory architecture, producing an entirely different experience of the same light. What would it mean to experience the world through a fundamentally different interface? What does the world look like at the quantum level? Not as math, but as experience. What does it feel like, if it feels like anything, to be at the layer where reality is information or consciousness or whatever sits underneath the physics? We don't have those senses. We have the ones evolution gave us for navigating the surface. But the fact that we can ask the question at all is interesting, because the interface is modeling itself. Your perception, built to navigate a simplified version of reality, has become complex enough to notice that it's simplified, to look at itself and wonder what it's missing. That loop is strange. Most of what we know about the deeper levels of reality didn't come from looking outward. It came from looking inward, from people paying very close attention to the nature of perception itself. The ancient Indian philosophical tradition of Vedanta said thousands of years ago that what we perceive as the external world is Maya, appearance, a construction overlaid on a deeper reality that the senses cannot touch. This wasn't mysticism divorced from evidence. It was the result of people sitting with the question of perception for years and noticing what held up and what dissolved under sustained scrutiny. The Buddhist tradition said something similar, that the sense of a fixed, external, observer-independent world is a product of the way mind processes experience, not a direct report from outside. Descartes, working from pure philosophical reasoning in the 17th century, stripped down everything he thought he knew and found one thing he couldn't doubt, that something was doing the doubting. Everything else, the external world, other minds, the reliability of the senses, all of that was downstream of that one irreducible certainty. These weren't the same tradition. They arrived independently, and all three kept hitting the same wall. The mind is not looking through a window at an independent reality. The mind is, in some way that's hard to articulate clearly, part of the system it's trying to observe. Wheeler's physics eventually showed the same thing through a completely different method. The observer is not separate from the observed. At the quantum level, they're entangled in a way that makes the separation impossible. Here's what changes when you actually sit with this. You stop walking through the world as if you're moving through a fixed, finished, objective environment that exists independently of your presence in it. Because you're not. You're in a constant act of co-construction. Every moment of perception is your nervous system making a series of guesses, filling in gaps, building an experience from a signal that never quite matches the full underlying complexity of what's there. The person sitting across from you right now, if there's someone there, what you're seeing is your brain's model of them, built from light patterns, from memory, from previous experiences of faces and bodies and expressions. The model is sophisticated, but it's a model. Their inner life, what it actually feels like to be them, is something you can never directly access. you can only ever observe the interface, which means every relationship you have ever had has been, in part, a relationship with your own perception of another person. That sounds bleak? I don't think it is, because what it means is that the closest you ever get to another person happens not when you're certain you understand them, but when you notice the gap between your model and what they're showing you, and you decide to be curious about the difference. The space between what you perceive and what's actually there is not a problem to solve. It's the territory where everything real about human connection happens. None of this means nothing is real. It means reality is much richer than what we've been given access to. The interface your brain runs is not an error. It's an extraordinary engineering achievement refined over millions of years. The fact that it lets you read, build, communicate, love, make art, find meaning, that's not a small thing, but it has edges. And past those edges is something we are only beginning to develop the tools to even describe. Wheeler thought observers might be more than passive recipients of reality. He thought the act of observation might be one of the mechanisms by which reality becomes definite at all. That consciousness, rather than being a late product of physics, might be built into the structure of how the universe selects from its possibilities. If he's right, even partially, then you're not just living at the lowest level of reality looking up at something you can't reach. You're connected to the whole stack, the interface running the interface, and the deepest level, whatever it is not somewhere else. It's what you are before your brain filtered it into something manageable. You are not seeing reality. You are seeing what survival required you to see. But you are also the thing that looked at its own interface and noticed it was an interface. The only known thing in the universe that became complicated enough to wonder what it's missing. That question, the one that makes you look at your hand and wonder what it actually is, that question didn't have to exist. Evolution didn't require it. Nothing about the pressure to survive demanded that the perception system become aware of its own limits. But it did. And that means something. Maybe it means the interface is becoming transparent to itself. Maybe it means the lowest level of reality has started to notice the levels above it. Not because it was designed to, but because it became complex enough that noticing was unavoidable. You are living in the lowest level of reality. You always have been. But you are also the first thing that layer produced that could look up and feel the pull of what's above it and want to know. If this opens something in you, subscribe to The Outer. These take weeks to build and we make them independently. A like, a subscribe, sending this to someone who'd be affected by it, that's what makes the next one possible. Here's what we sat with tonight. You have never seen the world directly. You've seen your brain's model of it, built for survival, not truth. At the quantum level, reality doesn't have fixed properties until observed. The math is certain. What it means is still being argued by the best minds alive. The deepest level may not be physical at all. And the question you're asking right now, what is this? What's underneath this? That question itself is the most extraordinary thing this level of reality has ever produced. Look at your hand again. You still don't know what it is, but now you know you don't know. That's where it starts. And if this raised something in you about what's actually underneath the surface you've been navigating, there's one more layer worth sitting with. Not the layer below reality, the layer below you. What happens to the awareness that's been doing all this perceiving when the perceiving stops? That's the next one. Click on the video on screen now